Hi everyone who happened to stumble across this video. I'm James, aka Zyborgian, and I review albums. Haven't in a while, but I'm getting back into it again, and as you can tell by the title, I'm going to be reviewing Necessary Wasted Time by The Custodian. Now, The Custodian is a project from the UK, which is basically the side project of most of the members of Xerath, whose discography to date I will be reviewing soon with the upcoming release of their new album. But for now, I'm going to be reviewing this, even though it came out half a year ago. I don't care. I only got it recently and listened to all of it for Christmas, so I feel compelled to talk about it. But yeah. Also, I apologize for any video and audio desyncing that might happen in this video. iMovie's been being a bitch the last couple times I tried to do reviews a long time ago. I don't know if it'll do it now, but whatever. And let's get into it. This video, as you can tell, might be long. That's because I tend to go into detail about all the tracks on an album before I talk about it just in general. So if you want to skip to just me talking about like the album in general, just click the Gojira logo. I'll put an annotation there. Alright, but let's get into it. The first track on this record is called The Man Out of Time. And this can essentially be seen as an extended intro piece to like set the tone of the record before it gets into the songs that have vocals in them. And what the main tone of this record is just beautiful, magical, very, very atmospheric with lots of acoustic, progressive rock kind of stuff. That's the main tone of this record. And it's really cool. There's also a quote that you can hear in the background in this, which is something that Xerath also do in their music, like in some of their songs like Reform Part 3 and The Glorious Death on their second album. But most of the tracks, like the first 5 or so tracks on this, were actually previously released as an EP under a different band moniker by Rich Thompson and the rest of the guys called Primer. And you can start to hear differences in this and that. Like, the quote actually isn't in that version, and I feel like it's a little bit distracting in this version, but that's just me. That's just me nitpicking. And then you get into the track Stop Talking, which, oh my goodness. This is just a really catchy, awesome song. Love the vocal hooks in this. Just throughout this album, they're awesome, but they're really cool here. And I also really love the transition into the bridge section after the chorus happens twice of this song. There's some really cool ideas going on there as well. But overall, this is just a really, really, really catchy, awesome, great song. But it goes into an even better song after that with Other People's Lives, which is probably still my favorite song on this record. Just every moment is just so beautiful. Like, and the chorus especially, like, I get the picture that, like, this song might have a little bit of a negative connotation attached to it. Like, you know, quit living in a fantasy world like you're other people that you can never be. Just live your own life, you know? But I actually, personally, got a really positive message out of it, and it's hard to describe. But when I hear that song, it's like that for me. So that's definitely a plus. But, another thing I noticed that I really liked is the bass playing on this. I'm a big fan of, like, fretless bass, and you can tell by listening to it that that's what's being played throughout this track, as opposed to the EP, the Primer version, which I don't think had that, and that's really cool. So I looked through the liner notes and found out that it's actually Xerath's drummer that's playing the bass guitar, and Rich, Xerath's vocalist, is doing a lot of the different instruments, and it's just really cool. Mike, props on bass throughout this record. It's awesome. But yeah, Other People's Lives is just a great fucking song. And then it goes into Persona, and I get a really sort of Devin Townsend-y feel from this particular track. And I don't know why my computer decided to go to sleep. Okay, sorry about that. It's a bit weird. Anyway, like, it starts out really laid back with this really laid back, clean guitar riff, but then it just explodes and goes into this soaring chorus. And the dynamic contrast there works absolutely great. And This and the previous song, Other People's Lives, actually don't go back into the chorus at the end, which I think is a really cool song structuring decision, because it just allows all these different newer surprises and moods to come in the later halves of the songs for these two. It's just awesome. And then we get a really long extended instrumental on this album with the 8-minute plus Things We Tell Ourselves, which was actually the title track for the Primer EP. But this song just goes through so many ideas, and they just all flow seamlessly well into each other. A couple of my favorites, if I had to pinpoint a couple, because I could spend way too much time talking about this song just in general. There's a riff that's really kind of metally, that's like and ascending while there's these crescendoing brass, and it's really epic, and it makes me feel kind of like I'm Superman, you know, flying through outer space or something when I listen to it. It's a really cool feeling. And there's also a point, like, right when you get to the halfway mark of this track, where there's like this really cool, like, sort of dissonant, like, suspension guitar chord that's being played. I love when Rich writes chords like that. It's just awesome. But yeah, this song in general, and most of this album, actually has a ton of purely instrumental sections where there aren't any vocals going on, which is kind of akin to another progressive rock album that I'm actually a big fan of, which is Tony Banks from Genesis' solo debut, A Curious Feeling. Now, on that record, of course, Tony Banks does, you know, mostly like keyboard layering and stuff for the instrumentation, but with the instrumental sections on the Custodian's new record, it's a lot of different timbres and things going on, and especially on Things That We Tell Ourselves. So you get a lot of different combinations of tones and feelings, which is awesome. And then that flows into another shorter instrumental track, Departure, which starts out with like seemingly audio from like a train station or something, but then it goes into these really Genesis-y, like in the acoustic guitar, Steve Hackett kind of melodies, and like just Pink Floydian atmosphere that just is, ooh, it's a really beautiful little track. I love it. And then that goes into track 7, The Sun Is God, which is another nice track, but this and the last song, admittedly, since they're two of the new ones with vocals in them, I haven't had as much time to let them absorb in, so yeah. But what I can say is there are some parts that I really like in this, like the verse, for example. It's like this 2-part sort of vocal back and forth thing that Rich is doing. It's just like this 2-part theme, which I like. And the lyrics also I want to talk about. It's because like it seems like he's talking about like the origins of stuff and religion and how the universe works to a slight degree, but it's not like in your face religion like Autotheism by the fucking Faceless. And don't get me wrong, I fucking love that song, but it's like it's in your face, and this isn't in your face. It's really executed well, and I feel it fits the song material well also. But yeah, as it goes on, there's like a bunch of different really cool parts. Like there's a part where it focuses on like the bass, and then there's a part right after that where it focuses on a guitar motif, and you get these different sections that focus on different aspects of the instruments of the music throughout the rest of that song, which is cool. And then the last song is the title track, Necessary Wasted Time. Now this one I feel like has room to grow on me personally. It's definitely not the strongest track on the record in my opinion. It's a good one though, and like some of the vocal hooks in here, oh my god. Like, there's this one soaring part, I can't remember the lyrics to it, but I had it completely stuck in my head and I couldn't get it out right after I listened to this record the most recent time I did. But yeah, and then it also has an outro, like after this really big sort of Dark Side of the Moon, like droning, really pulled back, like ambient part in the middle, and then it sort of stops and goes into a 2-minute outro to the whole album, which I feel really works well. And it fades out and it feels like, oh, the journey's over, but it, you know, it must end at some point, I guess. And now for the record as a whole. To start off, I think the best way I can start off is by pointing to a particular Porcupine Tree track for me, which is Trains off the album In Absentia. That song is a masterpiece, and it's not just because of, you know, how it's structured, like the melodies in it. It's just, it has this aura about it. This, oh crap, I really need to set my computer's going to sleep thing. This certain magic about it that's hard to describe, but you just feel like you're surrounded by all this mystical power when you listen to it. I get that feeling from this, practically this entire record, which is really saying something. This is truly one of the most magical sounding records I think I've ever heard. Like, I can't think of a better word to say, used to describe the music than it. It's just magical sounding, you know. But I also want to talk about the production. Now, the primer EP with the first 5 tracks, Man Out of Time, Through Things We Tell Ourselves, and this new incarnation of these songs plus the 2 new songs definitely have some differences in production. The Things We Tell Ourselves EP definitely, I think, was a bit more clear, a bit more crisp, and some of the instruments, I'm not an expert on production, so I might be wrong about this, but it sounds like they were recorded completely up to line level. Like, it's a little bit more in your face, but you can hear everything more clearly than you can on this. But for this direct production on this is credit, that does definitely add to the atmosphere, which is really important in music that's written like this, in my opinion. But I personally feel like the best production possible would have been like the clarity from the previous one mixed with the atmosphere of everything sort of blending together a little bit from this record. But at the same time, I think this one definitely has a little bit more dynamic breadth. It doesn't sound overproduced at all, which is very good. And the album as a whole section might wind up being a little short, but that's okay. That happens in some of my reviews. But just in general, the playing on this record, the execution of playing the different instruments, like Rich playing the drums, he lays down some really good grooves here. The melodies and the grooves, the way that they complement each other throughout this music, like some of the acoustic guitar motifs lining up in some of the odd times. It just flows really, really, really well, even when it does go into that odd time stuff. And the way instruments come in and out at points, like overlapping and then pulling back, it just, that really adds to the immersion, and I friggin' love it. It's awesome. Like I said, Michael's bass playing kicks ass. Like, I already knew you were a badass drummer, dude, but yeah, man. And Rich, you're a badass drummer too. This is awesome. And Owain's lead playing is, of course, sexy, and just the acoustic work, oh man. And the piano playing, when the piano comes in, some of the most addictive, like, just, oh, that sounded good lines are when the piano comes in after some suspense from the other instruments at points. But yeah, overall, this is an amazing, amazing record. And if you're a fan of progressive music of any kind, like, be it some, like, akin to some of the prog gods of the 70s, like Yes or Genesis or Gentle Giant, or like modern progressive music, like the stuff Michael Lagerfeld, Steven Wilson, Devin Townsend write, or even Anathema, for example, then this is something you should love and that you should pick up. Custodian, Necessary Wasted Time. I'm James, aka Cyborgian. I'll see you in the next review, whenever that is.